Black Widow opens in 1995 with Natasha gliding through an American neighborhood, not as a member but more like a tourist as other children play. She meets her sister, Yelena, who tries to keep up but trips. So a rivalry is subtly established. The mother comforts her and they collectively enjoy the sight of some really disgusting bioluminescent bugs. Everyone leaves but Natasha. As a result, immediately what defines her, even as a child, is her ability to be ahead, to appreciate the beauty around her even if she's not involved, and her sympathy for those behind. Natasha herself, you could say, is a beacon of light. I can't believe how pretentious that sounds out loud. However, the father has bad news and they leave. Under the disguise, it's an adventure, something Nat can see straight through, but Yelena is excited.
Yay!
Therefore, they glide out as if they were never there. American life was never home, just a dream, which is anchored by Yelena listening to American Pie to calm down. They escape to Cuba, revealing their really awful Russian accents.
The Red Guardian returns.
Red Guardian returns triumphant.
And like the country they slipped out of, the family itself slips apart.
I don't want to go back there. I can't take her.
This family was never real, but a bond is true, you could say. Black Widow is a film about a farewell to a home, a farewell to a character whose fate we know going in, and a farewell to a past that may have never existed, or even worth valuing if we take the nostalgia away. And it's... wait, what? So I know this movie has become quite contested, so I'm gonna have to very clearly state my videos are not reviews, they're essays in the traditional sense. It's about examining storytelling patterns to build an interpretation. It's way more clinical and way less personal. So I'm not saying it's a masterpiece or it's terrible, I'm just saying here's a fun way to look at it. I also don't get enjoying of this stuff anymore now that I'm a sleazy YouTuber looking for content. MCU's Natasha Romanoff is defined by a question of identity.
I thought I knew whose lies I was telling, but I guess I can't tell the difference anymore.
She doesn't know who she is and often depend on others to define her. If we organize her Infinity Saga arc in Act 1, Iron Man 2, Avengers and Winter Soldier, she's a cool secret agent living a redemptive life for an organization she believed was more moral than her.
I got red in my ledger. I'd like to wipe it out.
Then she leaves home when it's revealed that S.H.I.E.L.D. wasn't. Therefore, in Act 2, she tries to find a new identity on her own terms.
I blew all my covers. I gotta go figure out a new one. All my friends are fighters. And here comes this guy, spends his life avoiding the fight because he knows he'll win.
In Age of Ultron, it's with Bruce, a life without responsibilities. In Civil War, she finds it with the Avengers, a life only with responsibilities.
Just because it's the path of least resistance doesn't mean it's the wrong path.
However, both falls apart and she leaves following her conscience. In Act 3, Infinity War, she comes home to become the very thing she wanted from others. To rescue Wanda, to fight at the edge of the world, and in Endgame become the spine of a defeated world, redeem the man who redeemed her, and die to give everyone a second chance, as the world gave her.
You know, I wish there was a way that I could let her know.
Black Widow 2021 is set between Civil War and Infinity War, so it narratively resides at the end of Act 2 and the beginning of Act 3. Therefore it functions as a transition point to retroactively give more weight and reasoning to why and how Natasha, who had her identity shattered at every turn, can come back so reliably. The film does this by focusing on the crossing of the return threshold stage in the hero's journey, where the hero comes home as a new person. Except home isn't the Avengers, it's Natasha's original family. You knew I was going to reference Joseph Campbell at one point, didn't you? As a result, to analyze Black Widow comprehensively, I'm going to examine the movie through the lens of the socialization process, because it's a story about the movement of social values from one family to another, and then back again.
If it can work out with the four of us, there may be some hope for the Avengers.
Socialization is how we learn values and allow society to operate consistently. As Baumeister noted, for most children, family is the key agency of socialization because it's where they're provided a sense of identity and learn to be part of something. This is all paraphrased, by the way. There are many ways in which we learn from our family, and these include, first, role modeling. Many children learn their social roles through copying the behavior of their parents, and two, parents use disciplinary sanctions to reward socially approved behavior and punish deviance.
Natasha, don't slouch.
I'm not slouching.
So, yeah, keep all of this in mind for the story, because Natasha meets with her social sculptors, if you will. Wait, aren't I dead? Black Widow reopens 21 years later as Ross hunts her, but Natasha is long gone.
Romanoff?
So she's returned to her element, a loner with no stable home or real name, just her killer instincts against a hostile world. Subsequently, the film explicitly shifts genre. If Winter Soldier was styled after 70s conspiracy thriller, then Black Widow is more akin to a modern spy thriller, the type that fetishizes fugitives that are so awesome that entire governments are scared of them. As a result, the film implicitly snips off its own connection with the wider MCU, at least for a second.
I hear things. Something about the Avengers getting divorced.
Yelena then sends her a package carrying the cure for Ray Winston's brainwashing stuff, which causes him to send in Taskmaster. Yelena wanted Natasha to bring the cure to Tony Stark, and she's like, fuck! Furthermore, the Red Room is still going on. Natasha's time with Clint in Budapest didn't work.
Dracov's dead.
You don't actually believe that, do you?
Another obligatory action scene happens, revealing that Ray Winston controls a bunch of Black Widows to the point of death. Like the kids we were introduced to, there's a rivalry between Natasha and Yelena, and their experiences in America has changed them in very different ways. The States gave Nat something to look up to, an inviting life that can build stadiums and real communities, whereas Yelena, the little girl who listened to American Pie, became complacent for the reason that she sees it all as being quite superficial, including Nat's participation in it.
His pain and suffering is every day, and we are both still a trained killer. Except I'm not the one that's on the cover of a magazine. I'm not the killer that little girls call their hero.
The film even canonizes her hair whip, so it's not just for the viewer's benefit, but it's a non-verbal example of her self-conscious behavior.
It's a fighting pose. You're a total poser.
Not a poser.
Subsequently, the sisters begin to change each other. Natasha recognizes her responsibility to all those that were left behind, like in the opening, as it's due to her successes as an Avenger that the Red Room made things worse for others.
You're going to give me some big hero speech, I can feel it.
Speeches aren't really my thing. It was more like an invitation.
And Yelena's complacency ends. Despite their differences, love still persists, to the extent that Yelena shows off the vest that Nat wears in Infinity War as the first thing she ever brought legally.
I've never had control over my own life before, and now I do. I want to do things.
They then take a plane to free their father, Alexei, aka Red Guardian, in order to find the new Red Room. The man we saw at the start has now retreated into his boyhood in order for his idealism to survive. He likes telling old stories, arm wrestling, and reading fan mail. Therefore, you can see shades of the sisters within him. Like Natasha, he needs a dream to belong to in order to survive. But like Yelena, he's also like an overgrown child. After a long action scene that escalates from frickin' 0 to 100, they're together. But they actively dismiss him for the reason that he's incredibly ignorant over the horrors of their experiences. There's even a moment where Yelena mockingly references the loss of their reproductive organs, which is designed to directly contrast Nat in Age of Ultron.
Go in, and they rip out all of your reproductive organs. They just get right in there.
They sterilize you.
And they chop them all away. Everything out.
Yelena is incredibly immature and has no understanding of her own future. As a result, we have kind of a good idea to why Natasha defected to the West and why she doesn't want them as a family, but just as a team right now.
All indoctrinated into the Western agenda.
I chose to go west to become an Avenger. It's They treated me like family.
They crash land to where their mother is, but Big Red is more interested in knowing if Captain America mentioned him.
You haven't seen either one of us in 20 years and you're gonna ask me about you?
On one hand, he's a bit of a narcissist, but he also does love his kids. He's only limited by his dependency on a dream that rejected him. Kinda like Natasha, oddly enough.
Your ledgers must be just gushing red. I couldn't be more proud of you.
They reach Melina and are welcomed to a beautiful home. Everyone is flooded with emotions. Despite not being their real mother, she fulfilled the role wholly. They try plan an operation, but their natural family dynamic bursts through, which causes an argument.
Stop with the
Shut
Shut
up!
You are an idiot, and you're a coward. Our family was never real. So what? That wasn't real. Who cares?
Don't say that. It was real to me. You are my mother. The closest thing I ever had to one. The best part of my life was fake, and none of you told me.
Yelena and Alexei sit down. He tells a nonsense story and she hates it, while revealing that despite how he treated her as a mission, she genuinely worshipped him. Although despite the heat of the moment, they sing American Pie together. The fantasy of another culture gives credibility to the fantasy of their own family. And as Yelena connects with her father, Natasha connects with her mother. As it's revealed, her real mother was actually killed by Ray Winston after she didn't give up looking for her. A trait that Natasha inherited herself with how she searched for her own identity despite being forbidden. Furthermore, despite their differences, she and Melina triangulate with their connection of their old photo album.
No, leave it, go away. I've always found it best not to look into the past.
And why'd you save this?
The parents are who the kids could be if they never became fully formed. A child who can't see past themselves, and a ball of resentment needing to escape, but not knowing where.
You're not a mouse, Melina. You were just born in a cage, but that's not your fault.
However, it seems like a betrayal happens as the Red Room people arrive. Everyone are taken to a flying base where new Black Widows are being trained, which is a really strange place for the film to go. We went from living in a trailer with a grounded tone to bloody Captain Scarlet now. Natasha confronts Ray Winston finally about her mother, but he doesn't care. So she reveals she killed his daughter to taunt him, but he also laughs for the reason that she's still alive as the Taskmaster. On one hand, this is a very strange use of the character, because it doesn't really have anything to do with Anthony Masters, but on the other hand, it's a neat way to symbolically encapsulate Natasha's crimes into a single person, so she has a dramatic opportunity to face it.
You want to make her feel better.
The key pattern here is that Natasha may have escaped, but in doing so, she's perpetuated the same cycle of abuse.
And you? You got out. Dreykov made sure no one could escape. Are you gonna say anything?
As a result, she tries to blow his brains out, but can't. He's got sexy pheromones apparently, which is friggin' random. Therefore, Natasha can only challenge Ray Winston's narcissism, leading him to try and one-up her by showing the true extent of his powers. He influences the entire world's political climate, using all the girls every country discards.
I recycle the trash, and I give them purpose.
However, Natasha reveals this was her plan. This was the same trick from the Avengers, and Melina causes everything to start tumbling down. Natasha is then continually beaten by other widows until Yelena cures them. And oddly enough, she doesn't have a single scratch on her face afterwards. Although I guess we're going by Indiana Jones logic here, so I guess it's fine. Natasha downloads the information on all the agents and confronts Taskmaster, not to fight, but to redeem her, to break the cycle. Yelena, who was looking for a good death throughout the film, then chooses to exercise it, to die killing Ray Winston. But Natasha saves her, even though the explosion went off point blank in her face. So we have a mid-air fight scene that's ludicrous, and I kinda love it. I mean, there's two ways you can break into my heart. Have snow, or have it in mid-air. Natasha then uses a conveniently placed antidote to free Taskmaster, and they share a moment of peace in the ashes of what once abused and controlled them.
I'm sorry.
The family is together, speechless and at peace. They're ready to defend her from Ross. But this time, she must return to her world now, the super one. But not before Yelena gives her her vest. While she gives them the data, the army of widows arrive as a new community. Like with Natasha's family, they made something out of nothing.
Don't worry.
We're bringing her with us.
Consequently, there's a beautiful shot of Natasha as she stands in front of the sun, like an angel. We'll know she'll die, but this is a moment of life that gives it meaning. She has rediscovered the communal spirit she lost at the start of the film, so she can now have the strength to be the sole element keeping it all together, even at the end of her own life, which is anchored by the epilogue.
It's funny, my whole life I didn't think I had any family. It turns out I got two. One of them's a bit of a mess right now. I'm gonna go break a few of them out of prison.
As she passes the disgusting bioluminescent bugs that once fascinated her. The same girl who had no real home now has two.
What? I want them to follow their dreams. Reach for the stars.
You destroyed my birth certificate, so I reinvented it. My parents still live in Ohio. My sister moved out west.
Is that right?
You're a science teacher. You're working part-time, though, especially after you had your son. Your husband, he renovates houses?
That is not my story.
What is your story?
Widow?
Oh, no, that's not a question I need answered. I blew all my covers. I gotta go figure out a new one.
It might take a while.
I'm counting on
Very, very impressive individual. She's fluent in French, Italian, Russian, Latin. Who speaks Latin?
No one speaks Latin. It's a dead language.
I never let myself be alone long enough to think about it.
Do you know why it's gonna be all right? Because my girls are the toughest girls in the world. You're gonna take care of each other, okay?
I could have been more famous than Captain America.
Berries near Ohio on that stupid mission.
I was the chore, the job you didn't want to do. To me, you were everything.
Today's the day.
Yay!
I need you to know that I'm sorry. No more excuses, okay?
Hello? Hello? Before this film started, Natasha's last words were a threat to Stark.
I'm not the one that needs to watch their back.
When we return to her here, she argues she's better alone.
It's fine. I'm actually better on my own.
But then the last words we hear from her, seemingly forever in terms of release order, are
See if I can't help patch things up.
when regarding the Avengers. Therefore now, when we return to her in Infinity War, her threat to Proxima to protect her friends is given way more weight, and it made me realize that there's a straight up missing chapter in Natasha's original second act. Originally, she tried to figure out who she was with Bruce, but failed because her attraction was rooted in a harmful self-image.
You still think you're the only monster on the team?
Then she tries with the Avengers, but it failed because it was only an image that couldn't survive under pressure.
You're not gonna stop.
You know I can't.
She had 2 fails and no wins, which would be fine if she's reintroduced in Infinity War at a low point and learns to put herself back together, but that never happened. This film effectively told that story. Natasha's arc here begins with her believing she's better off alone and pushed her family away, but by working with them as opposed to just looking down on them, she finally figures herself out. She got to see that they were never as bad as she thought, and she was never as good as she imagined. Therefore, it's this experience that her harmful self-image is finally made healthy, for which we see in the Thanos films. Furthermore, in hindsight, Natasha's tearful confession in Endgame has been recalibrated. The word "this family" now overshadows this job.
I used to have nothing, and then I got this job, this family.
Because her life is no longer defined by a profession that allowed her to run away from the past, but it's her membership with people to live towards. A future that may not include children, but in bettering those around her. As Elena taught Natasha, Natasha teaches Clint. And as she created a community here just by her faith and willingness to persevere through pain, Natasha restores all the communities across the cosmos because she can take even death. Socialization is the transmission of values, in this case the values of love beyond professional borders.
I think we did pretty great as parents, huh?
Yes, we had our orders and we played our roles to perfection.
And through this lens, Natasha is like Prometheus bringing fire from the gods. She brought the same values even when everyone was content with letting it go. So Black Widow 2021 is a bridge that's designed to strengthen her later emotional motives with an exclamation mark. Special thanks to everyone on Patreon. I love you guys so much it hurts, and I have no clue what's going on.
Well, it's not smart to attack an Avenger if you want to stay hidden. I mean, the clue is in the name.